Say your name
Dr. Lillian McKethan.
and your current address.
My current
Address,
address,
yes.
1050 Mount Pleasant Avenue, Wayne, Pennsylvania.
Okay. How long have you lived in Mount Pleasant?
Let's see, we moved in 1965. Yeah, so you can subtract
Been
or
there for
add
a
or
while?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, why did you
yeah.
decide to choose to live there?
Well, I'm a native Philadelphian, and I intended to stay in Philadelphia all of my life, but the housing authority came through, eminent domain, took our home, and we really wanted to stay in Philly, but this was around the time of housing discrimination, and I didn't want to leave my mother in a place where she would be uncomfortable. All the places that they took us to, were the real estate people took us to, were either dilapidated, or if we went to like Delaware County, the people wouldn't even let us in the house to look at it. And we were visiting out here one day. My mom had a lifelong friend who lives on Mount Pleasant Avenue, and she told us about a lot that was for sale down the street from her. So, long story short, we bought it, we built it, and here I am.
So there's,
Yeah.
so there's a sense of comfort in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Was it
Now,
one of
all
the,
these people are since, long gone, they're all dead,
Right.
but they were there to be sort of our support system when we moved in.
Were you one of the
Yeah.
first houses to build in that community?
No,
Or-
I think there was a house farther down at the end of the end of the street, which is dead end. I think it was the Williams they had built there.
And we've taken a tour through there, so
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of the geography. But what's one of your favorite things about living in Mount Pleasant?
Peace.
Peace.
Absolute peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seclusion. I don't know if you went by my house, but we live about 250 feet away from the street. So even in the summertime, I don't hear the noise. And it was really good for me because at that time I was teaching, I was driving to Philadelphia through the hassle of coming back home, and all I wanted was peace and quiet when I got home. And that's what I got. And that's what I still have.
What would you say the best part of the community is for maybe the community as a whole?
I would say just the solidarity. It's basically a family community. There's one large family, and then their offsprings. But even at that, as you come into the community, it takes a while, and it took me a while because I was a Philadelphian, and they had to make sure I wasn't going to rob, steal, cheat, or whatever. But they got used to us, and they welcomed us into the community, just like we'd always been there.
Would you say that you're close with your neighbors and with the rest of the neighborhood?
I used to be, but like I said, most of the neighbors. Let me back up. There are two townships. There's Upper Marion Township, and or two counties. There's Chester County, and there's Montgomery County. I live in the Montgomery County area, which is at the end of the street. So, and because the street is so long, most of the people that we were the closest to were in the Upper Marion, Montgomery County. Now, most of them are also dead. And so now new people are moving in, and now I've got to get acquainted with them.
Right.
But basically, as I said, the whole street is more like a family community. And my sister also moved in. Also, we built two houses, so she's next to me, and she has children. So that we got to know the parents in Chester County because of the children.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. So I noticed you mentioned that it's mostly a family community. Have you noticed at all like some of the college students moving in, or the effects that they may be having on the neighborhood?
Again, that's in the Chester
That's
County.
in the Chester,
Yeah,
more towards
yeah,
the front.
Yeah. What I do notice is that they have very poor driving skills.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of not even stopping when they come out of a drive, they'll just zoom out.
Right.
And there are a lot of little kids in that section of the street. So that's my major concern. But in terms of any interaction with the college students, that's about it.
Right.
That's about
You
it.
said
Yeah.
you're kind of secluded. I know maybe some people who live closer to them, they have like
Yeah,
noise
yeah.
noise complaints.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have maybe a favorite memory of the neighborhood at all? Something that just struck you. It may not be favorite or just something memorable.
Not really.
Right.
No. And you, of course, you probably heard of this person, Maisie Hall, who was an educator also. And Maisie was the one who really welcomed me into the neighborhood, got me involved with the different social organizations and with the education center and that type of stuff. So she was really a close friend,
Right.
as well as being a mentor.
Right.
But other than that, no, it's just, it's a neighborhood.
Yeah. That's the garden? That was in honor of her, right?
Yeah, that's like 2 lots next to me.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any problems with the construction that's going on kind of over, I guess, where it would be behind the garden? You know, with the open lots and like the developers?
I don't even know about it.
Oh, really?
There was that barrier fence that like part of it collapsed, like those townhomes got made, like, do you know? And there's like that lot
just
with
the
like,
street over.
it's like a dangerous area from what they say for kids to play in, just because it's like,
Yeah.
do you know, it's like all the, it's all dirt, it's like an open, it's like a ditch kind of
Yeah.
almost. Like
Is
it'd be
it,
back behind.
They're saying they're going to develop maybe because it's in a zone where they can develop
That's
shops.
where, that's
and-
the area where Maisie used to live, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, the homes are right behind me. And we have like a burn between us and the
Oh,
homes, so
really?
they're like down in the
Yeah.
valley. So we
So
don't
that
have,
doesn't affect
we
you
don't,
too
we
much?
don't have any problem with that. But I could imagine in that area, my nephew did tell me about the building there. He does post-construction cleaning. He did tell me about that. Say, senior moment, I forgot all about it. But I could imagine in that closed area, it would cause a problem
Yeah.
because there are a lot of little kids back there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say would be the biggest problem, maybe to the community or maybe to yourself living there?
If there even is.
Or
one.
would you say is a problem?
Let me just kind of think. I would say the biggest problem would be the traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of street parking.
Yeah. And this should not be a problem. I was raised in South Philly. I should be used to this. But people will stop in the middle of the street and they will see you, because it's a two-way street, but
Right.
there's only one entrance. But they will stop and they will have their conversations and they will look up at you and smile and they will continue their conversations with the car in front of you. And but I should be used to it, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's just discourteous as far as I'm concerned.
Do you
yeah.
think that it'd be best for something to be changed, like make those one-way streets, or do you think it's just best the way it
You
is?
couldn't make
and
it a one-way street
It's-
because you couldn't get out.
There's
Right.
only the one
Yeah,
entrance, yeah.
there's only one entrance, yeah. I just think, it's a way of life that I didn't accept when I was living in South Philly, and I don't accept it now because
Right.
it's just discourteous, that's all. Especially because you don't know if the person waiting behind you has any sort of issue or an emergency.
Right.
You just continue your conversation,
Right.
and then you smile and wave when they get by, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna get more into you personally, person neighborhood. What was tell us about your childhood, maybe growing up, and how it's kind of led you into your life today.
Okay. Again, I lived in South Philadelphia. There were 3 girls in the family. We lived in a 2-parent home. We lived near a shopping area, Point Breeze Avenue. I don't know if you've heard of it. And we didn't know we were poor, which was good, because we thought we had everything that everybody else should have. But I say we lived in a 2-parent home, and our parents were not strict, but they were concerned, they believed in structure, they believed in us doing the right thing. So we were taught to live the way ordinary people should be. The one thing I give them credit for, and not the one thing, but the thing that stuck with us most, is that that spirit of service. As I said, we lived in a small community, and there was no question if someone was sick. My mother was called the soup lady. If someone was sick, when she came home from work, she would make the soup or whatever, and we had to take the soup to this person. And if they were too sick to eat, we had to feed them. If they needed errands done, we ran the errands. If some of them, their children couldn't get there at night for whatever reason, my sister, who's 2.5 years older, she would spend the night with them. But it was always service to people who couldn't help themselves.
Just helping people who need it.
Yeah. And that has stuck with us the whole time. In fact, it stuck with my sister even more because she would take in homeless people in her house once we moved. She would take in homeless people until they got a job and got themselves together and, and got back. It might have been like 3-4 months at a time. But she had that spirit more than I did. Mine was towards education.
Right.
Making sure that children who were at risk got the kinds of education and support that they needed. But that's the thing that they instilled of us more than anything else, service.
Right. So that's what kind of led you into your career path as an educator?
Yeah. And in fact, let me just back up with that service. Even when we moved to Mount Pleasant, my mom did the same thing. And by that time, it was my sister's children who had to go to the elderly and give them all the support that they could, go market for them, because in our area there's no public transportation.
Right.
So that this has spilled into my sister's children now, so that they have that spirit of just being a support to other people.
Right. Would you say that you were a religious family?
Oh yeah, we're Christian.
Yeah. So do you have any affiliation with the church in Mount Pleasant?
I visit sometimes. When we came here, we were traveling back and forth to Philadelphia to our church, but it just got to be too much. So we joined a church in Bryn Mawr. Senior moment again. Saints Memorial Baptist Church. I can't even think why we did that. Maybe because there wasn't enough room in that little church, because like I said, it was a family. It's a family community. Yeah. And once you get the family in that church, there's no room for anybody else. So I think and we were used to a larger church also.
Right.
Yeah.
Being from Philadelphia, so much bigger.
Yeah, but I did, we would visit, I would do volunteer work there. We would support whatever social events that they had. But we just needed a larger church.
Yeah. Backtracking, going back to the service thing, and it led you into your career. Will you tell us how you got to become a teacher, or maybe your education?
No, okay, that's the easiest part. I knew I was going to be a teacher when I was 2nd grade.
Right.
So, and I never veered from that. But I moved into special education. I was the director of special education at Eastern for about 14 years. But I moved into special education when I was teaching at Lamberton Elementary School in Philadelphia, 75th and Woodbine. And I had a class of children. I think there were 14, 15, 16 kids in the class. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven, right? But because most people had 25 to 30 kids. But these were kids who had all sorts of challenges that I had never met before. I might have seen 1 or 2 in a regular classroom, but when you get a whole classroom, then you know that, they just stand out because there's nothing else you can compare them with. And that made me decide to go into special ed. The other reason was that my nephew was diagnosed with being hyperactive. He was just a rascal, that's what he was. And he went to Vanguard, and the guy set him straight. He says, I don't think I want to live like this anymore. So he came back to Upper Mary and cured himself, yeah. But I went into special ed for those two reasons. And again, it was service, because I saw that the children were not being provided for. And again, the special ed law had not come into effect yet. What was it called, 94-142. That came in about 1975, and this was about 1968-69 when I went back into special ed. But I saw that they were not getting the services. And I was also pleased to see that the parents were concerned and were willing to take their children to have them tested and placed in as appropriate places they could, because they wanted the best for their kids. So that really encouraged me. But that's what led me into special ed. Yeah.
How were you in school growing up? Did you need a degree to go into special education at that time?
Yeah, I started, my undergraduate degree was in elementary ed. And then when I went back to graduate school, I got 2 masters. I got one in elementary ed, and then I got the other in special ed, and a combination of instruction. And then I completed my doctorate with a combination of all of it.
Right.
Yeah. But I had to have the certification in special ed in order to go into those kinds of areas. So I wound up my first assignment. I don't know if you're from the Philadelphia area, but my first assignment was a place called Woodhaven, which had just been built by the state. And they were affiliated with Temple University, so that was a good place for me to train.
Is that where you took graduate school?
Yeah, all of my undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate were at Temple.
Were at Temple?
Yeah. Because I didn't want to leave home.
Yeah. So did you do anything else after, or are you retired now?
I'm retired now, and actually I'm working with my church. We are developing, here's that service again, we're developing a homeless shelter for men in Southwest Philadelphia. So we're working on our feasibility plan right now. And I've also developed a guideline for a small, excuse me, a small Bible college that the church wanted to develop. So I did all the research for that, and I've handed them the proposal for that. And there are 2 things missing: the building and the money.
Yeah.
So they're moving towards that. And what else? Program development is what I do now. That's all.
Yeah.
And we're developing a written catechism for the church that we can use. So we're looking at the different catechisms from the different Christian organizations and combining it so that it reflects our belief system. So yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah. Being so involved in Philadelphia, do you ever miss living in the city, being out here?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
What I miss most is being closer to the center of the culture. And the other thing, believe it or not, is walking.
There's nowhere to walk around here.
I love to
There's
walk,
sidewalks.
but yeah, but I'm just afraid. And since I've been out here, I'm just afraid to walk these streets without pavements.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will either drive over to Valley Forge and walk around their track, or I'll drive up to King of Prussia Shopping Center and walk around there.
That's
yeah.
always a good spot to.
Yeah, but I miss the freedom of walking where I want to walk, when I want to walk. But other than that, no, because several of my friends have moved in this area, and as I said, many of them have passed. So I think there's only one who's still in South Philly.
do you still have family in Philly?
No, we're a very small family. It's my sister and myself.
You
My
said
sister-
they moved in.
Yeah, who lives next door. And her 3 children and a cousin. And that's about it. And she lives in Baltimore.
That's actually where I'm right outside Baltimore.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
If you don't mind, do you mind telling us about your parents, maybe what they did when you were younger?
Sure. My parents were originally from Red Springs, North Carolina, and they moved this way because of depression. And I think at that time they just had my older sister. But my father was a carpenter's helper at Atlantic Refining Company. And I think Atlantic has switched to Arco, and might be something else right now, but he worked there. My mother did domestic work, and once I started in undergrad school, she started in the factory because it was more money, and she had skills in sewing and the rest of that. So that was their occupation. Again, they're both Christians, and they believed in travel, which meant that we always had a summer vacation somewhere and in between. They took us, again, to the different cultural areas in Philadelphia because they wanted to make sure that we had a well-rounded background.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any children?
No.
No children.
No.
What about your sisters? Were you obviously you're next door to? So were you very close with them growing
Very
up?
close, yes, very close. During the times when I was in school, working on my master's, I think it was, then they were mostly in my charge. So we just had a great time together, yeah, yeah.
One of our goals for our class is we're trying to become more involved in the communities around here, especially in Mount Pleasant. Do you believe that we're helping at all with kind of maybe raising awareness, trying to tighten the tie between the campus and the community?
Well, see, I'm not sure because I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's actually another.
Yeah,
We're not doing as much as maybe we probably could be doing with our time.
Yeah.
But just the attempt. Yeah.
Okay. I remember when I first moved there and they had the community center near the church. I remember Cabrini College students used to come over and they were mentors to the children who were there. They would help them with their homework. But again, they were actually buddies. It wasn't just coming to help with homework.
Yeah.
But again, since I did most of my volunteer work in Philadelphia, I don't know where that happened, what happened with that, yeah.
Is there anything else that interesting that maybe we should know about your life or about you?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you about the Barry School. How could I forget that? When I was at Eastern, I don't know if you know what their motto is, to bring the whole gospel to the whole world. And I didn't see it happening in Philadelphia.
Right.
I saw it happening in Mexico and Spain and China and Japan, everywhere. But I didn't see it happening in Philadelphia, so I complained until the president said, okay, find a school in Philadelphia that we can adopt. So that's what I did. I found the Barry Elementary School, and we adopted the school. And the program actually was called the Eastern College Barry School Project. And it has really mushroomed. We started by just going into the classroom and just supporting the teachers in whatever way possible. But it mushroomed. And the other thing is Eastern students had to have community service someplace. So this was a wonderful place for them to have community service. So we would have like 100 kids a semester doing community service. Plus, we got the faculty involved in doing community service. So we would bring
the Eastern or the Barry School?
The Eastern faculty would be involved in the Barry School. So they would take their area of expertise, it could be art, anything that would be different from the regular reading, writing, and arithmetic. We brought the Barry students out, fifth graders, for 1 week every summer, so that they had the experience of being taught by college professors, and also getting all the enrichment that was possible. And then twice a year we had like a celebration for them to come out and spend the whole day on campus, and again be taught by college students and by the professors. And I'm sort of proud of that, because our goal, one of the goals, was to make sure that the fifth graders went into sixth grade.
Right.
Because many of them, I don't know how they got lost in the cracks, but many of them disappeared after fifth grade.
Really?
But we made that connection so that education was important to them.
So you saw the numbers increase and
Yeah.
going,
Yeah. And the project is still going on, and I've been
Right.
going from Eastern since 2002.
Huh?
So
Alright, something big.
I'm really proud of that,
It
yeah,
is, yeah.
yeah.
I saw you also worked at Lincoln. That's a Philadelphia school?
No, Lincoln University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's in Oxford, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah. When I retired from Eastern, 2002, yeah, I just did some adjunct work for Lincoln, and then the dean approached me and asked if I would develop their special ed program, because they were out of compliance. In fact, they didn't have accreditation. So I went there for 2 years, and I developed that program for them, and I left, I think, 2004 or 2006. Yeah, 2006, yeah. So I was there for 2 years.
Were you more drawn to maybe, because I know you said you worked at some elementary schools and special education. Were you more drawn to younger children, helping them out, or and then you also moved on to helping with college students as well?
Yeah. I started as a second grade teacher, but then in the course of my teaching, I've taught high school. In fact, 1 year I taught at Upper Merion High, yeah, with students with learning disabilities, who were actually very good students, but just needed another way to learn calculus and that kind of stuff. So I taught there for a year. And I think, Springfield Elementary, which is somewhere up the turnpike. But yeah, so I've taught the whole gamut.
All right.
A graduate
Yeah.
school, the whole thing. I developed the graduate program for special ed at Eastern, and so I, taught those courses also. Yeah.
This is more of a curiosity question. We just had an assignment trying to find a way to kind of close the income distribution gap. And would you say that through schools would be improving maybe some of the poorer areas of schools? Would that be probably one of the better ways to do so?
Well, I would say it depends on what you mean by improving.
I guess maybe the amount of money spent per student, because I know around here it may be closer to 20,000
Oh, yeah,
per student,
yes,
and
there's a
then maybe
difference there, yeah.
inside of Philadelphia it could be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000
Yeah.
per student.
I would say that's part of it, the money gap. But the other question is, how do you spend the money?
Right.
Yeah. Because I remember my first or second year teaching, we got a grant. I was at McDaniel Elementary School. We got a grant. And every classroom got a set of encyclopedias. They got some sort of technology that the teachers didn't know how to use.
Right.
So it stayed in the closet forever. So that's what I mean by it depends on how you're spending your
Yeah.
money, yeah. I would say if you're going to spend the money, do a needs assessment and see what's really needed, and then make sure you have the appropriate resources. There's that bandwagon effect. A new program comes out,
Yeah.
and everybody jumps on that. But is it appropriate for these kids?
Right.
So that's what I'm focusing on. Make sure that it's what they need.
Yeah, and being at so many schools, I just figured you'd probably have a good view at maybe
Yeah.
some schools that are just from the start. The kids that probably have a better chance of succeeding.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, not about. If you have the money to get the resources, to get the technology, to get the teachers, to get the smaller classrooms, to get the comfort in the classrooms. When I was doing the Barry project at, I guess it was, maybe it was 1995 or something like that. The students had to deal with the rats in the classroom. So it doesn't matter what kind of technology you have. You got rats running through there, kids still aren't gonna learn. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So look at the physical plant. They didn't have a lunchroom. They didn't have a gym. They didn't have an art teacher. So these are the kinds of things. If you're going to spend money, make sure you're spending them on the right thing. But first of all, look at the physical plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we may have got just about everything we needed. Do you have any more questions?
Let's see. I don't know. You covered a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
If you wanted to add anything else.
Any last comments?
No, I can't. I just
That's
appreciate
all right.
you asking me. I
Yeah.
didn't even know this was going on.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
and answering, telling everything. So
No problem.
it's been a really good help for us. I appreciate it.
Good. Okay. So write a good report.
Of course.
Yes, sure.